After dominating rock radio in the mid-70s and emerging with the big comeback in the 80s on MTV, Ann Wilson and the band Heart entered the 90s with the multi-platinum album Brigade, which contained a song that became Heart's biggest hit in years, a song that Ann Wilson actually hated. Up next, the story of Heart in the 90s, including their other band, the Mongers, and Ann's experiences with the grunge movement on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. If you want to experience the stories of your music straight from the artists who created it, this is the place. Subscribe below right now so you never miss out on our daily content. And to get even more videos, more interviews, and to help us to curate this channel, make sure to check us out on Patreon below. Heart entered the 1990s with a lot of confidence. After a rough go in the early 80s, they had a big comeback with their self-titled album in 1985, along with the #1 single, These Dreams, thereafter. These dreams that sleep when it's cold outside. Bad Animals followed suit with the second biggest single of 1987, with the bombastic classic, Alone. As they started the new decade with their 10th studio album, Brigade, continued their chart success that dated back to 1985 with the self-titled Heart album. Brigade actually peaked at #3 on the album charts in both the US and the UK, while peaking at #2 in Canada, Finland, and Sweden. The lead single from the record helped carve out that success. All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You was written by legendary producer Mutt Lange and was said to have been written for Don Henley. That's what Heart said in some of their liner notes. Apparently, the song was first recorded as All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You by Dobie Gray in 1979. All I want to do is make love to you. Heart's rendering of the song was a smash, of course, going all the way to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Held out of the #1 spot by Madonna's Vogue, actually. Believe it or not, this is Heart's biggest hit in most countries outside of the US and the UK. It hit #1 in Canada for a week. In Australia, the same thing. Reached the top 5 in New Zealand and in several Northern European countries. It was also nominated for a Grammy for Best Group Pop Vocal Performance. Another shocker, it's the only one of the band's singles to have been certified gold by the RIAA at this point. Ann tells the story of this next, as well as forming the Mongers and recording music for the soundtrack for director Cameron Crowe's Love Letter to Seattle and to that music scene called Singles. Ann talks about her exposure to the grunge scene with many big bands from the era, recording at the band's own custom-built studio, Bad Animals. That was in the early to mid-90s. There's some great stories coming up in this exclusive interview with Ann that you won't want to miss. Now, as we go into this interview, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I rock every day. You know, with Valentine's Day coming up, it is a perfect gift for your loved one, or you can treat yourself with a new pair of glasses or sunglasses. Just go to zenni.com. See how you look before you buy with their 3D virtual try-on. That's a really cool feature. Here's Ann Wilson with the story of Heart in the 90s. All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You. Yeah. Was kind of pushed on you guys. I read that Don Henley was going to record it or something. You recorded it. Of course, it becomes a big hit. And I love Heart, but I hate that song. Probably just like you do.
Brother! I love Heart. I hate that song too. What the heck is going on?
But I love how years later, you guys were going to put it back in the set and you're starting to sing it and you're like, I'm not doing this.
Nah.
Tell me that story.
The thing about All I Want to Do Is Make Love to You is that I'm no prude. I'm not a Victorian woman or a prudish woman about where sexuality is concerned. But when you took those words that were written to be sung by a man about casual sex with a hitchhiker, I didn't ask him his name, and you flip the gender, it took on. It was shocking, to be sure, but for me, it took on a grossness.
A creepiness.
A creepiness, yeah. Exactly right. And I offered him a ride. And, you know, I sang and everything, and people really liked the groove of it, and I think a lot of people like the idea of like, hey, yeah, the woman in the driver's seat for a change, you know. Well, okay, but that only goes so far. Yeah.
I mean, nothing against Mutt Lange. He's incredible.
He's great. He's great. He's really talented.
I think you're right. I think I've thought of it that way, but turning it around, it kind of just...
Something weird happens there that's I wasn't ready to just keep singing it decade after decade after decade, you know. I think I matured past it in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Please understand. I'm in love.
But it was really great to have a hit, and it gave us...
Well, in 1990, too. So it gave you a third straight decade with a top 10 hit. And
and they banned it in Ireland.
I know.
Which gave us cred. That was a cool thing.
That may have not even happened to you, too. No, I'm just kidding. I want to ask you, too, about The Night. Tell me about recording with Sammy, because Denny Carmassi was in Sammy's original band.
He came to Heart from Montrose, and he and Sam were really good friends. And that's how we made the contact to be able to write with Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, at that moment, everyone was reading the Anne Rice vampire books for the first time. They were so popular. Interview with the Vampire, and that whole series had taken over the culture. So, of course, we wanted to write a song about all those folks.
Take my flesh, I'll give you my soul.
And Sam was he's a really great guy, real nice guy. And the friendship between he and Denny Carmassi really cemented, that was the liaison between Nancy and I, and we all worked well. We played well together.
And you guys have played quite a few times live together, you and Sammy.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Another song that I love from Brigade is Under the Sky. I thought that was a little bit of almost kind of seeing back into what Heart used to be.
Yeah.
I think we ought to get away. Let's run away.
Yeah. I agree. And that was such a refreshing moment for us because we didn't have to try anything. We stopped trying. We just did it. You know, Nancy just played the acoustic like she does. You know, she did that thing she does. And
very inspired.
We went out to the beach where we always would go to write, and some finger just reached down and went, yes, this time.
Sometimes that's probably what it feels like, right?
Yeah. And that song is about release and escape. Just getting out from under something heavy.
I love that you guys own Bad Animal Studios in Seattle. Automatic for the People was mixed there.
Tons of stuff, yeah.
It's one of the great records. And then, of course, Pearl Jam and Johnny Cash recorded there, that Willie Nelson tribute album.
Yeah.
So what was that like, owning a recording studio?
Well, we, of course, with help and everything, we designed the place and built it and spent all our money on it. We had some gripes about what studios were like. There was never a beautiful bathroom that a woman would like to go into and take a shower and hang out with cool products and stuff. So we made sure we had that at Bad Animals. And, I mean, that's a silly thing, but
no.
When you live in the studio, sometimes it's not silly. It was comfortable. It was nice to be in. It made people feel good to be in there. And it had one of the first great big computers in it, the first great big SSL boards. And it was the only place at that time in Seattle where you could go to a state-of-the-art studio. So at that moment, that's when grunge was born.
Alice in Chains recorded.
Became known.
Yeah.
It had been going in Seattle for a long time. So Bad Animals was where they all came to have food fights and burn cigarette holes in the desk. And break everything. And so we'd have to repair it, and they'd sleep under the board and shoot up in the beautiful restroom.
Oh man,
all
very
this kind of
rock and roll.
So yeah, it definitely got its launch.
Quite a legacy, because not only Automatic for the People, but Neil Young, Mirrorball, and just some great records there.
All kinds of people, Neville Brothers.
Yep.
All kinds of different orchestras and people.
I want to ask you about Love Mongers.
Yeah.
On the single soundtrack, Battle of Evermore, and then the EP that you guys put out. I remember getting that, and your version of Papa Was a Rolling Stone. And tell me about putting that together.
Well, Nancy took a break from Heart. She was married at that time to Cameron Crowe, and he was working on the movies Singles and Almost Famous and Jerry Maguire and that string of movies that he had. Oh, yeah, it's great. Screenwriter, too. And he had asked her to, what are you kicking around the world in this band that can hardly get arrested for when you can just stay home with me and score my movies? So she came to me and said, I'm gone.
Okay.
And so, with a big gulp, I accepted it. And I went out and did my own thing in some bands, the Ann Wilson Project type bands. And Nancy came with our current manager, our natural manager, Carol Peters, to see one of these bands I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And Nancy kind of went, whoa, that's a pretty good singer. And it wasn't long after that we got together just to start jamming again.
Mm-hmm.
And we put the Love Mongers together with Sue Ennis and this guy, Frank Cox, just a personal friend, with a great Irish tenor voice and could really play and write. Just the four of us, just to sing harmonies and have fun. And we took a benefit gig in Seattle. It was during the first Desert Storm War.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a Red Cross benefit, support the troops, bring them home. It was a little bit of both. Support the troops, but bring them home. Yeah. Or support the troops by bringing them home. Anyway, we played this benefit, and the Love Mongers, we just thought of the name the day before because we had to have a name.
Great name.
And we did some anti-war songs like The Great Mandela, but it was so much fun that we decided to keep doing it. And we just started taking gigs. And of course, nobody wanted to pay money to hire this unknown group, the Love Mongers, even though Ann and Nancy Wilson of Heart were in it.
Right.
Because we weren't playing Heart songs. So I think we played Crazy on You, and that was about the only one. So we, once again, spent all our own money on it and didn't make a red cent doing it. Went in the hole. But we did the Love Mongers for, 4 years, something like that. Made 2 records. I was the singing bass player and learned how to play the bass moderately well. I wouldn't call myself a virtuoso by a long shot.
Right.
But that was really fun for me to get to be something more than the singer. And when you play bass and sing lead, and you're being in the pocket with the drummer, you're splitting your brain, so every part of yourself is being used to as full as possible musically. And I really liked that. So then Cameron asked if we would do Battle of Evermore on a soundtrack he was doing, the single soundtrack.
It's a great treat for fans too, because I remember getting the CD, or maybe it was the cassette tape the first time I bought the EP, but had that kind of grunge looking, kind of had almost looked like Everclear, before Everclear kind of thing, but just some great music.
The thing is that the Love Mongers, we were no longer Heart at that point. We were someone else. We were a Seattle band.
You were like Sgt. Pepper's or something.
Yeah, we were living in Seattle, being influenced by what was going on there, and just we were out of touch with the music industry, and so it was a period of freedom from any kind of expectation. It was great.
And getting to record with Alice in Chains on their EP, Sap. And then I love how kind of Lane Staley not returned the favor, but he sang on the Dylan song, Ring Them Bells.
It's the last thing he ever did.
Ring them bells, ring them bells.
Such a talented singer.
Lane Staley was lit from within. He had a lot of struggles, but when he was on, the light was definitely on.
Time that flies for the child that cries.
Well, for me, Alice in Chains was as powerful as Nirvana or Pearl Jam because, I mean, I remember more of the day that Lane died than the day that Kurt died, almost as much.
Yeah.
I remember exactly where I was at, where I was like, and a sadness came over because I just love those songs so much.
Both those deaths were really sad for the people left behind.
Absolutely.
I imagine they were really liberating for those who went on. But yeah, I agree. I mean, when Kurt went, it was such a big covered thing. It was just, they were so huge, and grunge had evolved to the point where it was so big that it wasn't innocent. It was not an innocent death, you know.
You talk about your Beatles moment, but Smells Like Teen Spirit was my Ed Sullivan moment.
Yeah.
My generation's for sure. Because I remember it was a weird time because the 80s had turned into the 90s, but it wasn't the 90s yet. It was still the 80s, even though it was 1990, 91.
Because I love you. Step by step, ooh, baby. Everything I do it for you.
And you had Unbelievable.
You say you're unbelievable.
And all those kind of songs on there. And then you have like the New Jack Swing going on. And then all of a sudden, this out of nowhere, Smells Like Teen Spirit. It's like,
that was one of those tsunami moments
wow.
where wash away everything that came before.
Ann Wilson has actually made peace with this song as she has been performing it live in recent years. Leave us a comment about To Heart Below. Is there a song that was, is there a song that was massive or beloved that you never cared for? Tell us about that below. If you dig this video, we do this every day. We invite you to subscribe below so you never miss out. To get Heart's classic music or their merch, click on the Amazon links below. To get even more content, again, check us out at Patreon. Help us keep the music alive. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Stay safe out there.